robotics. And every few days he'd come in and be like, oh, here's what my robot can do now. And they'd drive around the room autonomously, and I'd be like, oh, that's pretty neat. And they'd be like, oh, watch, I can talk to my robot, and it will respond. And I thought that was pretty cool as well. But I didn't realize at that point in time the implications. But what I started to see was he was getting interest from some pretty significant companies in North America, some of the large computer companies. He was getting interest from Russia, from China. And I started to recognize that I was going to lose my programmer. And so he became a friend of mine over the years, and I started to look into his business a little bit more and, and do a little bit of consulting with him. And the more I did research, the more I started to realize the massive wave that robotics was going to bring in terms of transition. And that really impacted me in a deep way. I have 3 children, and I want them to grow up in a great society. And I see that we are on the precipice of the greatest transition, both economically and socially, in the history of mankind. I also saw that there was potentially a great crisis if we don't have a well-trained workforce. And so I put my company aside and I began working to try and educate educators and government about the importance of robotics, the importance of STEM, and and then I guess specifically how Easy Robot fit into that, but that's kind of a secondary agenda. So that's my passion. I've got kids. I feel like I've got skin in the game. And people that heard me talk yesterday could tell the passion and level of importance this has. So the number one question I got asked yesterday, and I think this is a good place to start, is, will robotics take away human jobs? And I've talked to robot companies that say no, and I've talked to people that say yes. And my answer to that is quite simply, obviously, yes. Robotics will take away millions of human jobs. Anybody who says otherwise either is selling you something or has another agenda. Now, that's the bad news. The good news is robotics will also bring millions of new jobs. Right? We just have to be ready for those new jobs. And the other thing, and this is, I think, an area of big misconception, or not misconception, just a lack of understanding amongst educators and government, is that every other job on the planet will be impacted. And so the skills that you have today in your existing jobs may not be sufficient in 5 years or 10 years' time. It's going to take massive retraining, because everything is going to get a robotic makeover. Agriculture, construction, fashion, you can go through the huge list. And so, when I make a comment like that, say millions of jobs are going to disappear, people say, where are you getting your information from? Where's your stats? And there is no historical precedent for what's coming. But what I've done is I've looked at human nature, and I've looked at the robotics industry, and I put those two together, and I think the conclusions are pretty self-evident. And when I look at human nature, I look at what the auto industry did when it had the opportunity to move to robotics with human workers to save money. It went to robotics. And I don't fault the the auto industry for that. That was a good business decision. When I look at what manufacturing in North America did when it had the opportunity to move to Asia to save money, it moved manufacturing to Asia to save money. And this isn't just about manufacturing. This isn't about business being bad. When we look at companies like Walmart that bring economies of scale into our marketplaces, and everyone says, "Oh, Walmart's coming," and initially you used to hear, "I won't go to Walmart. I'm going to support my local businesses," but eventually Walmart comes in and takes over the market because they bring economies of scale. It's human nature, and it can't be repressed. People want to save money. People want to make money. And the flat reality is that robotics can do some jobs more efficiently, capital-wise, than people can. And people can do other jobs more efficiently than robots will ever be able to do. So we shouldn't be, I don't think we should hide from the fact that robotics will take away millions of jobs. I think we need to understand that. And we need to understand that millions of new jobs will be created and start to prepare ourselves for those new jobs. The economic implications can be significant if we don't. Oxford researchers predicted that up to 45% of jobs could disappear to computerization in the next 20 years. That represents 67 million jobs, an average of 3.5 roughly million jobs per year. And it's not going to start this year. It's not going to be 3.5 million jobs this year. It's going to scale up. And again, I don't say these things to create fear. I say these things to create awareness, because we have to prepare our workforce. We have to prepare our students. So what I want to do is I want to talk about a few different robotic technologies, some of which are here. There's different seminars on these technologies and the impact that they can have. And I want to share with you guys my experiences from talking with educators and governments over the last 18 months. And I've talked to, I would estimate more than 1,000, for sure more than 1,000 educators, a handful of government people. And what I can tell you is they don't understand the scope of what's coming and what they need to do to prepare and how little time they have to do it. So the first technology I want to talk about is self-driving cars. We all know that these are coming. It's an interesting and controversial technology. When I ask educators typically what they think about the implications of self-driving cars, the response that I get back almost unanimously is, I enjoy driving. I don't want to share the road with robots. I don't want to not drive my car. And I mean, that's great, that's a social implication. But when I say let's look at the economic implication for that and try to understand what that's going to mean overall, a lot of them have never really put it in that context. And this goes, and the government is the same. When I talked to the Alberta government, where I'm from, they said to me, oh, we're just redoing our curriculum. And I said, that's awesome, how are you guys preparing for the robotic transition? And they're making a curriculum for the next 10 years. I said, how are you preparing for the robotic transition? And they said, what? And I said, the robotic transition, the millions of jobs that are going away, the millions of new jobs, how are you guys preparing for that? And they were like, we have no idea what you're talking about. And that's our government that's making the curriculum, and that's my government for the next 10 years. For me, that's a bit of a problem. So looking at the implications for self-driving cars, it will take them a while before they're on the road, but once they are approved for operations within cities and on highways, it will be the death of cab drivers, truck drivers, and bus drivers. Those jobs will cease to exist. That won't be in the next 3 years, it probably won't be in the next 5, it might be 10, might be longer than that. And it won't be all at once. That will likely, I believe, come in certain stages, where highway driving will be the first thing affected, so that will probably impact the trucking industry first. So if you're a long-haul truck driver, start thinking about retraining. That's going to have other implications, because now if truck driving becomes cheaper, and I don't know what the economies are for shipping by rail versus shipping by truck, but if truck driving, I have to assume that the truck driver is one of the most expensive components of shipping by truck. So now if you take that component out, shipping by truck will become cheaper than shipping by rail for some routes. That has the potential to destabilize the railway industry. Self-driving cars on highways, I make a lot of trips between Calgary and Edmonton. It's about a 3-hour drive. If I've got a self-driving car and I can work on those 3 hours versus taking a plane, I might start taking my self-driving car instead of a plane. But I can't afford to lose those 3 hours right now. I'm taking a plane, so I might take that self-driving car. So it will affect the airline industry. So it has far-reaching implications. When we go a step further than that, and it gets approved for use within cities, that will be the end of cab drivers over a period of time. And when I say that, some people say to me, I don't want to take a robotic cab. And here's what I'm going to tell you, that doesn't matter. If you individually don't want to take a robotic cab, that doesn't matter, because the industry will push it through, and here's why. I want to play a little game with everybody. It's called cab company. I want all of you to pretend that you own a cab company, and you're going to buy a new cab this year. Let's say it's going to cost you $40,000 for the car, and you're going to have 2 cab drivers to run that car 24 hours a day. Cab's going to cost you $40,000, and 2 cab drivers, I'm spitballing, $70,000. Now, you could also go and buy a robotic cab for $110,000. In the first year, you pay for your robotic cab. In the second year, you put $70,000 more in your pocket. Who here is hiring the people? Nobody. Is this the end of cab drivers? Yes. I don't know what the time frame is. Nobody really truly does. But when we look at human nature, we apply it against the knowledge that we have, and we apply our own thoughts and how we would react. It's easy to see what industry is going to do. So let's look at another robotic application that's coming right now. The customer service robot. Lowe's has got a couple that they're testing right now, which I think are awesome. For one particular reason, which is if I'm looking for a customer, if I'm looking for a plumbing expert, they can ping the plumbing experts across the country, and I can get one on a video conference within 2 minutes because I've spent hours at the store waiting for one. So I would drive an extra 20 or 30 minutes to go to that store to use their plumbing experts, right? So right now they've got 2 robots in one store, and they're kind of proving the technology and seeing how it's going to respond if it's ready for prime time, so to speak. Kind of honestly, I really hope it isn't. I hope that they need to do a lot of revisions on it, and we get a couple extra years. Because let's forecast and see if we can figure out what's going to happen if they have customer service robots. And I pose these questions to students as well. I've spoken to thousands of students, and they get this. I say to the students, what will these robots do in the evening after the store closes? Are they going to put their feet up and tweet their friends and do Instagram? The students get it, like, no. What are they going to do? Maintenance, yes. Stock shelves, yes. Security, yes. Now, these robots right now are not equipped to do stocking of shelves. But what I can tell you is if I owned that company, I would build a chassis that these robots could strap into at night, that would have arms that could lift pallets, because that's great economy of scale. So if I would do it as an entrepreneur, I can assume that other people will do it. And if this company doesn't, another company will, right? And so if these robots prove out and they work and they're great and people accept them, and they do bring some great advantages, well, if they work in the Lowe's store, will they also work in the Home Depot? Yes. Costco, yes. Walmart, yes. Will they work in the stores in the mall, the Gaps, Randy Rivers? I don't even know what stores are in the mall. I'll get to those right now. But will they work in those stores? Yes. And that'll be a trickle-down effect. But when those decisions come, they're going to come very rapidly. It's going to be a scenario where they're going to go, okay, these work, they're accepted, let's spread them out across California. Let's spread them out into Texas. Let's spread them out into centers where we know that robotics and technology is more accepted, and it will eventually work its way across the country to the point where it's taking away, I don't know, spitballing 10, 20 jobs at every big box store across North America. So that's the second technology that's going to have a significant impact. And again, I'm not picking on these companies. I think the technology is great. The economy of scale is important. It's going to bring significant economic benefit to us all. We just have to be ready for the new jobs that are created, and I'll talk about those in a moment as well. So the third technology that I want to talk about that is going to change things significantly over the next 5 to 10 years, and it's already starting to, is this guy right here. Easy Robot. And everyone's going to say, hey, that's a shameless plug, and I'm going to tell you why it's not a shameless plug. The difference between Easy Robot and the typical robotics development cycle is like comparing DOS to Windows. Not many people could program in DOS, so you didn't have computer applications hitting a large number of industries. But pretty much everybody here can use Windows or a Mac. I'm a Mac guy myself. But what Easy Robot does, and we've got these great little robots that are fantastic for teaching and educating, but it's also a real-world robot platform. It's the backbone of commercially available robots today. It's being used in industry. And we're talking with a lot of significant robotics companies about building the next generation of the robots around this platform. But what it does, most importantly, is it allows anyone to build powerful robotics. And that goes right down to 5th graders. So a 5th grader could now spend 6 months working and learning robotics, and then he could build a robot out of our components that was more powerful than any robot you could buy in the store today for under $8,000. That's a 5th grader. Take that level of ability now and apply that to adults and apply that across a wide range of industries. You didn't get robotics in agriculture historically a lot because you had people that knew robotics, people that knew agriculture, different information, different knowledge base, people that know construction, that know fashion. And so, because robotics was so difficult, you didn't get a lot of transition between the two. Occasionally, applications would bridge across and be very expensive. But because now people can build and develop their own robotic applications easily, we're going to start to see that happening a lot. And we're already seeing it happening. Where somebody used this to build a robot, or to build a robotic dress for a fashion show. The model had a dress with a dragon that was coming up over her shoulder. And they wanted the dragon's head to be able to move, the mouth to open, and the eyes to glow. And so they were easily able to make that with this platform. And if you had asked me 2 years ago, you know, would robotics and fashion go together, my answer would have been, that's way off. But when I asked I'll get to that part in a second there. Anyway, it's happened, so now they do go together. And certainly I get a different response from people in every other market than New York that I've talked to, because New York understands fashion. And there's been a lot of people involved with fashion and robotics walking through the show that I've talked to. But I'll talk about that in a second here. We've got a rover, and I had that rover at an education conference. This is the kind of thing that's going to happen daily or every week for the next 5 years. So my rover was sitting on the table at an education conference, and somebody came over that does duct cleaning. I said, can I use your rover to put them up into the air shafts to show people how dirty the air is that they're breathing? And I said, yeah, it's a great idea. It's a great application for the rover. And so now robotics and duct cleaning go together, right? And you wouldn't expect those two things to go together, but the implications for this are starting to get pretty significant. I come from a television background. I've been in the TV industry for 20 years. One of my favorite shots is a time lapse where the camera moves. Does everybody here know what a time lapse is? It's a shot where the clouds are zipping overhead and the traffic's going really quickly. But I love it when the camera moves. The challenge is, those shots typically can cost thousands of dollars each, because you've got to lay down a track, you've got to put your heavy equipment on there, put your camera on there, you've got to move it, wait a minute, move, wait a minute, take a picture, move, wait a minute, take a picture, change the servo angle, take a picture. And in doing so, it can cost thousands of dollars. In my last gig before moving over to the robotics industry, I was traveling the world. It was a great gig. Filming in countries like Mexico, Jamaica, and I love these shots, but you can't fly down a big track, and to rent them in these countries is incredibly expensive. So what I can do now, we designed a little GoPro mount to put on our rover that allows you to, and I can program within 3 minutes the movement axis and the servo movements. So within 3 minutes I can program this, and with a rover that costs $400 and a 35-cent 3D printed GoPro mount, I can now get an unlimited number of these shots for free. Right? I can throw that rover in my duffel bag, take it down in my carry-on. And so we're changing the television production industry. We all know how drones are changing the television production industry. So what I'd like to do is kind of similar to the cab game, and this is going to seem a little redundant, but we all know where this is going to go, but it's important. Similar to the cab game, I want to play a game we call fashion industry. You're all a fashion company, and you're going to hire a fashion designer. And by the way, before we play this game, you should know that when I told a teacher about the dress for the fashion show, her comment to me was, you should talk to Victoria's Secret. And I'm ashamed to say, I said, why? And she said, because they've got the models with the angel wings. And I probably should have known that. And she's like, you can make those robotic. And I said, that's a great application. So what this teacher did was, within 2 or 3 minutes of learning about robotics with a very light level for the first time, she made a connection that I didn't see. She saw an opportunity that I didn't see. And that's what's going to start to happen across every industry across the planet. People with a tight amount of information about their own industries are going to start to see ways to innovate with robotics. So let's play the fashion game. You're all a fashion designer, or your fashion company, you've got a budget to hire one designer. You can hire designer A, who's a fantastic designer, but doesn't understand robotics. And you can hire a fashion designer B, that's a fantastic designer and doesn't understand robotics. Hands up, who's hiring A? Nobody, again, of course, it's a silly question, it's redundant, the answer is totally obvious, but I don't think that people have taken the time to think about these things. When I told this to somebody from the fashion industry yesterday, I'm like, who'd you hire? She looked at me like I had 2 heads, because the answer was so insulting to her. Obviously, it would be the person with the robotics knowledge. And so, what about if you're a television producer, and you're hiring a camera person? Do you want the camera person that's fantastic, great camera person, but he can't give you these shots because he doesn't understand how to use robotics? Or do you want a camera person that is fantastic and great, can give you these shots because he understands robotics? Who gives you the better value? The camera person with the robotics knowledge. If you're hiring a duct cleaner, a duct cleaner. And